Om Sri Sai Ram. Prema Vahini, Chapter 56. Perform good deeds with constant remembrance of God. If the person is ill, or even if the mind is immersed in something else, the taste of food cannot be grasped. So also, if the heart is full of ignorance, tamas, or is wavered, no joy can be experienced even if one is engaged in remembrance of the name Namasmarana. Devotional singing, recitation of the name, japa, or meditation. The tongue will be sweet as long as there is sugar on it. Likewise, if the pillar of light called devotion continues to burn in the corridor of the heart, there will be no darkness. The heart will be illumined in bliss. A bitter thing on the tongue makes the whole tongue bitter. When the qualities enter, greed and anger enter the heart, the brightness disappears. Darkness dominates the scene, and one becomes the target of countless griefs and losses. Therefore, those who aspire to attain the holy presence of the Lord must acquire certain habits, disciplines, and qualities. The usual ways of life won't lead to God. They have to be modified somewhat by means of spiritual discipline. Look at the crane. It walks about pretty fast in water, but while walking, it can't catch fish. For that purpose, it must become quiet and stand motionless. So also, if one proceeds with greed, anger, and similar qualities, one cannot secure the fish of truth, Sathya, Dharma, and peace, Shanti. Whatever spiritual practice one may have, one must practice uninterrupted remembrance of the name Namasmarana. Only then can one master the natural attributes of greed, anger, etc. All the scriptures, Shastras teach but this one lesson. Since the Lord is the universal goal and this journey of life has Him as the destination, keep Him constantly in view and subdue the mind, which makes you wander from the path. All the good qualities automatically gather around the person who practices control of speech and constant contemplation of the Lord. See, in the Dwapara era Yuga, the Kauravas were engaged in wicked deeds, even while experiencing the fruits of their previous good deeds. On the other hand, the Pandavas were thinking and doing only good deeds, even while undergoing sufferings due to their previous evil deeds. This is the difference between the wise and the unwise. The Kauravas were slaves of the appetites of hunger and sex, and the Pandavas did every act for the sake of the Lord, with the truth, Sathya, and Dharma as their charioteers. Those who are overwhelmed by the grief can never feel interest in either a feast or a fight. Similarly, the real aspirant who is immersed in thoughts of God can never taste or even think of worldly objects of enjoyment. Jai Sai Ram. Om Sri Sai Ram. Prema Vahini, Chapter 57. Awake, arise, and attain the highest. Before death takes its toll, one must realize in this body itself the eternal truth and the relationship between a person and that truth. Kathopanishad exhorts, arise, awake, uttistas jagrata, prapya varan Nibodhita. Those who are agitated by doubts about what to accept and what to reject, those who are blinded by illusion, and those who cannot distinguish between darkness and light, death and immortality, all these should approach great people who can show the path to understand the eternal truth, the self-illumined basis of all creation. Then both this world and heaven will be merged in the same effulgence. For the sake of this realization, one should have deep yearning and hard and disciplined practice. This human birth is the consequence of countless good deeds, and it should not be cast aside. The chance must be fully exploited, as the Kenopanishad says, this present precious life should not be thrown away. Na chata iha avedim mahate vinashit. When there are many chances of saving oneself, isn't it big loss if no thought is spent on ways of escape? For all those who are really animals in human form, slaves of pride and animals' traits, this awareness in time is most important. Delay is fruitless. It is as silly as starting to dig a well when the house catches fire. Therefore, the discriminating individual will endure by all means at their disposal to understand the underlying principles, to master the teachings of the great people who practiced the spiritual path, and to bring all this as much as possible into the ken of their own experience. Jai Sai Ram. Om Sri Sai Ram. Prema Vahini, Chapter 58. Dedicate yourself to the discovery of truth and contemplate the everlasting. Discarding the path and wasting one's life is an insult to the very name of the species. Instead of getting enslaved to the evanescent and the false and wasting precious time in their pursuit, dedicate every minute to discovering truth and contemplating the everlasting, ever true Lord. Such dedication is the real function of the soul. On the other hand, spending time in illusory appetites is the drag of the world. One should not fall victim to the poisonous attraction of worldly luxuries or the wiles of seductive beauty. One day all these fascinating scenes will vanish as a story unfolded in dream. Education and other things that make one grow and become big are of no use for spiritual progress. They bring about only spiritual downfall. That is why this is the illusory universe, Maya Prapancha. Truth, in whatever illusion it is immersed, will only shine more effulgently, for such is the nature of truth. How can we say that the objective world, which undergoes modifications every minute, waning and waxing with the waywardness of appearing and disappearing, is eternal truth? The characteristics of a spiritual aspirant is the attainment of truth, not the search of the unreal in this ever evanescent world. In this false world, there can be no true living, Sathya Achara. There can be only false living, Mithya Achara. True living consists in the realization of the Lord. This must be borne in mind by everyone, every moment of their life. Jai Sai Ram.